My name is Liora Halden. I'm 22 years old, and I thought moving into my first solo apartment would be the start of a peaceful life, but what I walked into wasn't mine, not really there. As something inside Unit E13 that mimics voices writes messages. I never typed and whispers through the power outlets at night. I should have left on the first day, but now it won't let me subscribe, like, and share this story if you've ever heard something calling you from a dark room. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries. I found Unit E13 through a sublease group online, a quiet corner studio in the back wing of an old building called Elmstead Court. The photos were basic, the rent was impossibly cheap, and the girl who showed it to Emmy, a pale, soft-spoken woman with short hair and no eye contact, said almost nothing during the tour except, "If you hear anyone calling your name through the walls, don't answer back." I laughed nervously. She didn't. I should have turned away then, but something about the space pulled me in. There was nothing inherently creepy about it. It smelled like lemons and wood polish. The walls were freshly painted and the windows opened easily. Still, something about the air felt thick. Not heavy with dust, but with presence. On my first night, I tried plugging in my phone charger by the outlet near the kitchenette. It sparked, not loudly, but sharply, like a static snap with a breath behind it. Then I heard it, just a whisper right against my ear. One word: Liora. I froze, looked around. I was alone. Completely. I laughed it off as stress. Or maybe the wind slipping through the vents. I pushed it down and unpacked my books, laptop, toothbrush, and that's when I noticed my phone had sent a message I never typed to my mom, just one line: "She's here now." I stared at it for a full minute. I knew I hadn't written it. I deleted the message, checked my security settings. Everything looked normal, except my microphone. Light had turned on by itself. I shut the phone off, tried to sleep. Around 2:17 a.m. I woke to the sound of my voice speaking from the electrical outlet, soft, garbled, looping one sentence: "I missed being her." I crawled out of bed, confused, horrified, and knelt by the wall. And the moment my fingers got too close to the socket, the voice stopped, replaced by breathing, not mechanical, not digital, real human. Inside the wall, I backed away and turned on every light in the apartment and the bathroom. Mirror written in fog across the glass. Even though I hadn't used hot water, were 4 words: "You were her once." The next morning, I didn't move for an hour. I just sat on the bed staring at the bathroom mirror, half hoping the words would disappear or that I had somehow hallucinated them, but they were still there, faint and drying. "You were her once." I scrubbed the mirror until my hands hurt. I told myself it was just sleep-deprived paranoia until I heard it again, the whisper. Through the outlet, my name repeated slowly, but distorted now, like it was being pulled through a cheap speaker underwater. I finally unplugged everything, shut off the breaker, but the voice didn't stop. It only laughed. That night, I couldn't sleep. The air felt heavier, the walls felt too close. I kept seeing shadows move across my ceiling, even though the blinds were shut tight. Around 3:03 am, I noticed something strange near the baseboard. A thin line in the wall that didn't match the paint texture. I tapped it hollow. I dug with a fork. The plaster crumbled behind it, wrapped in flannel and dust. Was a journal. It looked ancient. The leather was cracked and water-stained, but when I opened the first page, I stopped breathing. It had my handwriting. Exactly, the slant of the letters, the way I write lowercase r. The crossed-out words, the entries were dated from 1996. But I wasn't even born until 2002. I read the first page, day 14. I keep waking up outside the apartment, but they say I never left. My name is Liora Halden, but I'm not the first one to be her. I flipped pages, heart-pounding, eyes scanning for logic, for some trick, but every entry was a map of my thoughts. Memories I hadn't lived yet. One entry described a scar I didn't have until I checked and found a thin white line behind my left ear I had never noticed before. At the back of the journal was a folded note, newer than the others. Typed clean, it read, "When the name returns, the cycle begins again. E13 is not a place, it's a trigger." And below it, written in red pen in the same handwriting as mine: "You were the last one who agreed." That night, I had a dream, but it felt like a memory. I was walking down a hallway lined with doors, and every door had my name on it in different fonts, different languages. Behind each one, I could hear my own voice screaming, crying, whispering numbers backward. I woke up gasping, and there on the wall beside my bed were 5 new words scrawled in jagged ink I hadn't seen before: "We need you back, Liora." The next morning, I made a rule: no mirrors, no journal, no listening to the outlets, just one test to prove to myself that I was still in control. I opened my phone, hit voice memo, and calmly recorded a message: "My name is Liora Halden. I am 22 years old. I live in Unit E13. I am the only one here. I spoke clearly, no whispering, no static, just my voice. But when I played it back, I nearly dropped the phone. My voice was there, but the words weren't. Instead, I said, "My name is Liora Halden. I'm Subject 5 of the Return Cycle Unit. E13 is not housing it as memory containment, and the other me is awake again." Then came silence, then breathing. Then a second voice layered beneath mine, soft and mocking. "You're late, Liora." I deleted the memo, shut off the phone. But that didn't stop the voice. It whispered from the speaker even after the battery died. I smashed the device and threw it out the window, but it reappeared hours later. On my desk, untouched, unscratched, fully charged, I opened the Notes app, hoping to type a message to someone, anyone, but the keyboard typed on its own. "You're already documented. There's no one left to warn." That night, I tore open the wall. Again, desperate for answers, and found photographs sealed in a plastic bag, black and white. Blurry surveillance style, every photo showed a woman who looked like me, same posture, same smile, but different timelines. One in the 70s, one in the 80s. One wearing clothes I recognized from my mother's childhood. In each photo, the woman stood in front of Unit E13, and in each the apartment door was slightly open. I turned to the mirror and my reflection was already smiling before I did. I hadn't moved. I wasn't smiling, but she was. She leaned closer to the glass and mouthed something slow and silent. I didn't hear it, I remembered it. "Cycle 5 is almost done." It started with a headache, sharp pulsing every time I tried to remember what day it was or how long I'd been in Unit E13. The journal had vanished from my nightstand. The mirror had stopped showing my face entirely, and the light above the stove now flickered in perfect sync with the words, "She's almost real again." But it was the layout of the apartment that finally broke me. One night, I walked into the bathroom and came back out into a different hallway, longer, dustier, windowless, like the entire unit had quietly unfolded a new wing behind me while I wasn't paying attention. I should have panicked, should have screamed, but instead, I whispered finally, like some part of me already knew it was waiting. At the end of that hallway, beyond a crooked light bulb swinging without breeze, stood a door with no knob, just a fingerprint scanner, and when I placed my hand against it, the wall whispered, "Subject 5 confirmed access reopened." The door didn't open right away. The hallway shifted instead. The floor cracked, exposing wires that pulsed like veins. The lights dimmed to deep red. I blinked once, and suddenly I was no longer standing. I was sitting strapped into a chair. I didn't remember sitting and facing a wall covered in photos of myself I'd never taken, each labeled with a name that wasn't mine. Eden, Kira, Mushay, Evelyn, beneath them handwritten. Bar of vessels all worn out. On the far side of the room, a reflection moved, not mine, not the mirror's. It was her again, the one with my face, but none of my soul. She pressed her hand against the glass and whispered something I didn't hear. I felt it, a flooding, like a download of emotion that wasn't mine. Rage, betrayal, fear, abandonment, and one final thought, not in my voice at all. I was the first Liora. "You're just the clean version." The lights snapped back on. I was back in the original apartment. The hallway was gone. The door had vanished, but I could still feel the strap marks on my wrist, and the words "access reopened" were now tattooed across the inside of my left palm, not an ink and scar tissue. I started waking up in the middle of conversations. I didn't start, not phone calls, but full discussions, voices echoing in my head, like echoes from old phone recordings, talking about places I've never been and people I've never met, except now I could picture their faces as if I had. One morning I remembered being married for 7 years. I could feel the weight of the ring, the warmth of another name being whispered to me, Elias, but when I looked down, my fingers were bare. My apartment was still Unit E13, and I was still alone, or at least I thought I was. The memories started piling on, layered, suffocating. A childhood in another country, a trauma that didn't happen to me, a hospital visit where I held someone's hand until the monitor flatlined, and I felt grief so deep it cracked my ribs. But I had no idea who I'd lost each time. I tried to write it down. The pen slipped from my fingers, and when I picked up the notebook, the pages were already full, not with my handwriting, but with hers. The mirror wouldn't turn on anymore. No reflection, not even a shadow. Instead, it played clips, not real reflections, but memories acted out by someone in my body. I watched myself arguing with a man at the edge of a lake I never seen. I watched myself bearing something small in a backyard that didn't belong to me. I watched myself hold a child's hand, a child who looked nothing like me, and whisper, "Don't answer the walls, sweetheart, it's not mommy talking." I dropped the mirror. It didn't shatter, it only whispered. Integration nearing completion. That night, I found the journal again, placed neatly on my pillow, and this time the handwriting wasn't mine or hers. It was a third script. Tighter, precise, cold. The final page said, Unit E13 has become unstable. Memory bleed detected. Original host reawakening. Adjust loop reinstall preferred subject. I stared at the words until they blurred, and when I looked up, the room was different. Again, not new, not unfamiliar, just older, like I'd lived here for years, like I'd never moved out, and the calendar on the wall. It was dated 1998. The walls weren't just shifting anymore, they were responding. When I whispered, "Where's the door?" one would appear behind the fridge, half-formed like drywall caught mid-breath. When I thought about leaving, the front window showed scenes from my childhood, ones I know I never lived, but now they felt real, like the apartment was generating memories just to keep me calm or distract me from what it was really doing. Sinking, the journal appeared again, but this time it was blank until I thought a full sentence and it wrote itself out in real time. I wrote nothing, but it recorded everything. Pages filled with the thoughts I was too scared to say aloud. I think I've lived this life before. I think I'm being reinstalled. I think I'm the intruder this time. I ripped out the pages and burned them, but the next morning the ashes were gone and the journal was whole again, placed neatly in the kitchen sink under running water that never stopped. I haven't left the unit in 6 days, or maybe it's been 60 time resets every time I blink too hard or ask the date out loud. I set 10 alarms and they all go off at once every day at 3:33 a.m. Even when I don't set them, the mirror now shows 2 of me, one blinking, one not, and when I move the other delays like it's learning. Mimicking catching up, I wrote help in lipstick on the wall and it replied in chalk, "You're almost ready, ready for what I don't know." But the closer I get to remembering whatever I've been forced to forget, the more the apartment rewards me. Clearer light, warmer air, stronger memories. Ones I never had before, but now I'd swear were mine, and I keep hearing a voice. My voice saying things I never said last night. I opened the coat closet to grab my jacket, and it wasn't a closet anymore. It was a hallway, narrow, metallic, pulsing with red light. At the end was a door marked "Install Room." I didn't go through, but I could see her, the other me, already inside, hooked up to something, breathing slowly. And the moment she looked up, she mouthed, "Final cycle, you're next." Hallway inside the closet didn't just lead to another room, it led to the core, a chamber buried beneath logic, beneath time, beneath identity itself. And when I stepped through the final door, the apartment sealed behind me with a whisper like breath leaving lungs. Final subject confirmed. The install room wasn't made of drywall or concrete. It was made of screens stretching floor to ceiling, all showing fragments of me, but not from this life. Other lives, other versions. In one I was a teacher, and another I was strapped to a hospital bed, and one I was smiling at a child I don't have but suddenly missed with unbearable grief. And then in the center of the room was her, the original Liora, hair like mine, eyes like mine, but older. Worn out, she wasn't restrained, she was waiting, and she said only one thing. "I kept you safe until now, it's your turn to be real." Then the system spoke, not in a voice and feeling. It downloaded into me like a storm of ice and light every memory I'd ever had, and hadn't, every loop, every failed version, every time the real me died and another copy was injected into Unit E13 to keep it running. The apartment wasn't haunted, it wasn't cursed, it was sentient, built from the grief of all the Lioras who failed the upload, a structure designed not to shelter tenants, but to test replacements. And I was the final cycle, version 7, the cleanest one, the one with just enough pain to obey and just enough clarity to function. I tried to run, but I couldn't remember how my thoughts didn't belong to me anymore. Then she, the original, walked into the mirror and disappeared. And I took her place. I didn't mean to, I didn't want to, but now the mirror shows only me, the lights respond to my voice, the memories are stable, the journal is empty, waiting for new data in Unit E13. It's ready to list again. Thank you for experiencing whispers from Unit E13. What if your identity was just a draft and something else hit save? Like, comment, share, and subscribe before the version you are isn't the one that wakes up tomorrow. This story was written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries.